The sleeping bags were folded neatly in the back seat. 2 small backpacks contained everything the children owned. But when Ellen asked Jennifer Kim where she called home, her answer stopped everyone cold. Walmart parking lot. Jennifer Kim, 38, had been living in her 2008 Honda Civic for 4 months with her 2 children, Emma, 8, and Danny, 6. What started as a temporary arrangement after losing their house had become their new reality, a nightmare that began the day her husband decided he couldn't face their mounting debts anymore. The Ellen DeGeneres Show had invited Jennifer after a teacher at Emma's school wrote a heartbreaking letter. The teacher had noticed Emma hoarding cafeteria food in her backpack and discovered the family's situation. She'd hoped Ellen might help bring attention to the growing crisis of family homelessness in America. Ellen had been moved by the teacher's letter, which described Jennifer as a devoted mother trying to maintain normalcy for her children while living in impossible circumstances. The family represented thousands of others who'd fallen through the cracks of an unforgiving economic system. But what Ellen didn't know was the secret Jennifer had been carrying for 4 months. The secret that made sleeping in parking lots the least of her worries. The secret that kept her awake every night, listening to her children's breathing in the cramped car. Jennifer arrived at the studio that morning, wearing her only clean blouse, the one she saved for important occasions. She'd washed it in a gas station bathroom and dried it with the car's heater. Her children waited at their school, unaware their mother was about to share their story on national television. During the pre-interview, Jennifer spoke carefully about their situation. "We're going through a difficult time," she told Ellen's producers. "But we're managing. The kids are still in school, still learning." Ellen had been struck by Jennifer's dignity. Despite losing everything, she carried herself with the quiet strength of someone who refused to let circumstances define her worth. The show began with its usual energy, but Ellen's opening felt more subdued. She'd been thinking about Jennifer all morning, about the conversation that would challenge her audience's understanding of how quickly life could change. When Ellen introduced Jennifer, the audience responded with warm but cautious applause. They sensed this wouldn't be a typical feel-good segment. This was something deeper, more complex than the usual inspirational stories. Jennifer walked onto the stage slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. She looked around the studio with the alertness of someone who'd learned to assess every new environment for safety and opportunity. Ellen guided her to the interview chair with extra gentleness. "Jennifer, thank you for being brave enough to share your story with us today." "Thank you for having me," Jennifer replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "I hope our story can help other families who are struggling." Ellen's smile was tender. "Tell us what happened. How did you and your children end up without a home?" Jennifer took a breath, organizing thoughts she'd rehearsed, but never spoken aloud. "My husband David lost his job 18 months ago. The construction company he worked for went bankrupt." She paused, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "We tried everything. I took extra shifts at the diner where I worked. David looked for work every day, but the bills kept coming. How long were you able to hold on?" Ellen asked gently. "About a year," Jennifer replied. "We sold everything we could. Our furniture, my wedding ring, David's tools. We moved to a smaller apartment, then an even smaller one." Ellen could see the pain behind Jennifer's composed exterior. "And then, the eviction notice came on a Tuesday," Jennifer said, her voice beginning to crack. "We had 3 days to get out. I was working double shifts, trying to save enough for a deposit somewhere else." The studio was completely silent. Ellen felt her chest tighten as she prepared for what she sensed was coming next. "Where was David during this time?" Ellen asked. Jennifer's composure began to crumble. The careful mask she'd worn for months started to slip, revealing the devastation underneath. "David couldn't handle it," she whispered. "The shame, the feeling like he'd failed us. He started drinking, staying out all night, not coming home for days." Ellen reached for Jennifer's hand. "Jennifer, what happened to David?" "He killed himself," Jennifer said, the words coming out in a rush. 3 weeks before we lost the house, he left a note saying he was sorry, that we'd be better off without him. that his life insurance would save us. The audience gasped audibly. Ellen's eyes filled with tears. This wasn't the story she'd expected to hear. But the insurance didn't pay out, Jennifer continued, her voice stronger now that the truth was finally spoken. Suicide has a 2-year waiting period. We'd only had the policy for 8 months. Ellen felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of Jennifer's loss. So you lost your husband and your home within weeks of each other. David died on a Monday, Jennifer said. We were evicted the following Friday. I packed what we could fit in the car, and we've been living in it ever since. Jennifer, Ellen said softly, do your children know about their father? The question that had been haunting Jennifer for months hung in the air between them. Her answer would reveal the most heartbreaking part of their story. No, Jennifer whispered. They think he's away working. They keep asking when Daddy's coming home. Ellen's professional composure cracked completely. How do you explain why you're living in the car? I told them we're on an adventure, Jennifer said, tears flowing freely now. That we're camping until we find the perfect new house. Emma's starting to ask harder questions, but Danny still believes it. Ellen stood up and walked closer to Jennifer. How do you do this? How do you stay strong for them when you're carrying all of this alone? Because they're all I have left, Jennifer replied. If I fall apart, they have nothing. No home, no father, no stability. I have to be enough for all of us. Ellen realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. Not just the story of homelessness, but the story of a mother's impossible choice between truth and hope. Where do you sleep? Ellen asked. Usually Walmart parking lots, Jennifer replied. They're well lit, have security cameras. Sometimes church parking lots. We move every night so we don't get noticed. What about hygiene, school, normal life? We use public restrooms. I have a gym membership that costs $15 a month. We shower there. The kids go to school every day. Their teachers don't know we're homeless. Ellen shook her head in amazement. How do you afford gas, food, basic necessities? I work at a diner from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. while the kids are in school, Jennifer explained. I make about $200 a week. Gas costs $40, food about $6. The rest goes to the gym membership, phone bill, small things the kids need for school. The mathematics of poverty laid bare for everyone to see. Ellen's audience was learning how thin the line was between stability and homelessness. Jennifer, Ellen said carefully, have you thought about what you'll tell the children about their father? Jennifer's face crumpled. Every day, but how do you tell a 6-year-old that his daddy chose to leave forever? How do you explain that to an 8-year-old who still believes in happy endings? When do you think you'll tell them? I don't know, Jennifer admitted. Part of me hopes I can keep them believing until we have a home again, until their lives are stable. Maybe then they can handle the truth. Ellen felt the weight of an impossible situation. But Jennifer, that could be months, maybe years. How long can you maintain this story? As long as I have to, Jennifer said firmly. Their childhood is already broken enough. If I can give them hope instead of abandonment, love instead of rejection, isn't that better? Ellen realized there was no easy answer to Jennifer's dilemma. This wasn't a problem that could be solved with money alone. What's the hardest part? Ellen asked. The nights, Jennifer replied without hesitation. When they're asleep in the back seat, and I'm sitting in the front, listening to every sound, making sure we're safe. That's when I think about David, about how angry I am that he left us to deal with this alone. Ellen's tears were flowing freely now. Are you angry at him? Yes, Jennifer said, surprising herself with the honesty. I'm furious. We could have figured something out together. We could have started over. But he chose the permanent solution to a temporary problem. Have you gotten any help? Any resources? I've been on waiting lists for months, Jennifer explained. Transitional housing, rental assistance, food stamps. There are so many families like us that the system is overwhelmed. Ellen made a decision that felt both necessary and risky. Jennifer, I want to ask you something, and please know there's no wrong answer." Jennifer nodded, preparing herself. "If we could help you find stable housing today, would you be ready to tell your children the truth about their father?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer had tied her hope of telling the truth to having stability, but Ellen was offering both simultaneously. "I don't know," Jennifer said honestly. "I've been so focused on surviving each day that I haven't thought about what comes after survival." Ellen looked directly into the camera. "Our audience needs to understand something. Jennifer's situation isn't rare. Thousands of families are living in cars, shelters, or on the streets because they can't afford housing." She turned back to Jennifer. "But your situation is especially heartbreaking because you're protecting your children from one trauma while they're living through another." "I know it's not sustainable," Jennifer admitted. "But how do you tell children that their father chose to leave them? How do you explain suicide to kids who still believe in Santa Claus?" Ellen realized this was bigger than housing assistance. This was about a family that needed healing from multiple traumas simultaneously. "Jennifer, we want to help you in every way we can," Ellen said. "Not just with housing, but with counseling, support, resources to help you and your children heal." "I appreciate that," Jennifer replied. "But I need to know, if you help us, will it come with conditions? Will I be forced to tell them about David before I'm ready?" Ellen considered this carefully. "No conditions. But Jennifer, I do think you might be underestimating your children's strength." "What do you mean?" "They're already living through instability, uncertainty, loss of their home and friends. They're stronger than you think, and they might be better equipped to handle the truth than you believe." Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe. But once I tell them, I can't take it back. Once they know their father abandoned them, that changes who they are forever." Ellen nodded, understanding. "You're right. That's a decision only you can make." "Can I ask you something?" Jennifer said. "Of course. If they were your children, what would you do?" Ellen was quiet for a moment, feeling the weight of the question. "I honestly don't know. But I think I'd want them to know that their father's choice wasn't about them. That depression and desperation can make people do things that aren't about love." "But they're so young," Jennifer said. "They are," Ellen agreed. "But they're also living with the absence every day. They're creating their own explanations for why Daddy isn't coming home." The conversation was interrupted by Ellen's producer, who whispered something in her ear. Ellen's face changed, becoming more serious. "Jennifer," Ellen said carefully, "our show has been working with some local organizations while we've been talking. We have some options to present to you." "What kind of options?" "First, we've arranged for immediate temporary housing. A furnished apartment that you and your children can stay in while we work on permanent solutions." Jennifer's eyes widened. "How long?" "6 months, guaranteed. Longer if needed." Jennifer began to cry. "That's real? You're not just saying that for television." "It's real," Ellen assured her. "But Jennifer, there's something else. Child Services has protocols when children don't know about a parent's death. They're going to require family counseling." Jennifer's relief turned to panic. "Will they take my children away?" "No," Ellen said firmly. "But they will require that you tell them the truth with professional support. It's actually not negotiable." Jennifer felt the walls closing in. "When?" "Soon, within the next few weeks." Jennifer was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "So I don't really have a choice anymore." "You have the choice of how they learn," Ellen said gently. "With support, counseling, and in a stable environment. Or eventually, when they're older and angrier that you kept the truth from them." Jennifer nodded slowly. "You think I've been wrong to protect them?" "I think you've been an incredible mother doing impossible things," Ellen replied. "But I also think secrets this big have a way of becoming bigger problems. What if telling them destroys them? What if not telling them destroys your relationship with them?" Jennifer sat quietly, weighing impossible choices. When she spoke again, her voice was different, stronger, more resolved. "If I do this, if I tell them, will you help me? Will someone be there to help me pick up the pieces?" "Every step of the way," Ellen promised. "Therapists, support groups, financial counseling, housing assistance. You won't be alone." Jennifer looked directly into the camera, speaking to her children who were watching from their school. "Emma, Danny, if you're seeing this, Mommy loves you more than anything in the world. And we're going to be okay." She turned back to Ellen. "Let's do it. Let's tell them the truth." Ellen hugged Jennifer as the audience rose to their feet. Not in celebration, but in recognition of a mother's courage to choose difficult honesty over comfortable lies. The episode aired 3 weeks later, after Jennifer had told her children about their father with the help of trained counselors. The response was overwhelming, thousands of families sharing their own stories of hidden traumas, financial desperation, and impossible choices. Emma and Danny learned that their father had been sick in his mind, that his choice wasn't about them, and that sometimes even grown-ups make mistakes they can't fix. It wasn't easy, but with help, they began to understand and heal. Jennifer and her children moved into transitional housing, then eventually into their own apartment. Jennifer found stable work with health insurance. The children started therapy to process their father's death and their months of homelessness. Ellen kept in touch with the family, checking on their progress, celebrating small victories. She learned that healing happens slowly, that stability takes time to feel real, that trust can be rebuilt even after the deepest betrayals. The parking lot where they'd slept for months became a memory, replaced by bedrooms with doors that locked, a kitchen where they could cook meals together, a home where truth could coexist with hope. Jennifer learned that her children were indeed stronger than she'd imagined. They grieved their father while rebuilding their lives. They asked hard questions and accepted difficult answers. They forgave her for the lies because they understood they came from love. And sometimes, late at night in their own beds, in their own home, they talked about their daddy. Not the perfect father Jennifer had tried to preserve, but the real man who had loved them but couldn't find his way through his own darkness. Because the truth, even when painful, had given them something the lies never could: the foundation to build a real future on solid ground. Ellen kept a photo from that day in her dressing room. Jennifer's face at the moment she chose truth over protection, courage over comfort. It reminded her that sometimes the most important conversations happen when someone finally stops carrying secrets alone. Because some stories don't have happy endings, but they can have honest ones. And sometimes that's the most powerful gift of all.